And this is a picture of my 6th grade school class. And one thing that I want you to notice, well, two things I want you to notice. One is that the girl in the front row there thinks we're in the 9th grade. That actually was a 6th grade card that she was so excited about getting her picture taken that she didn't realize that she had it upside down. So this was our 6th grade class, and the thing I want to show out to you is the diversity of nationalities there. You can see American-borns, you can see Hawaiians. Like, for example, the guy sitting on the top row, 3rd from the left, he's a pure Hawaiian, and he also was considered the hunk of the class. No, they didn't choose me at all. And the nicest looking girl in the class was generally considered to be the girl on the 2nd row, 4th from the right. You see that girl with the, yeah. So anyway, but the other thing I want to point out was there were a lot of Polynesians, a lot of Japanese, and a lot of Asians, children in that classroom. So it was a very diverse thing in the Hawaiian Islands back in the 1939, 1940, 1941, which was not yet a state. It was a territory of Hawaii. And it was much later that Hawaii became a state, as did Alaska. So let's go to the next picture. And that is a picture of Hickam Field, which was where my dad was going to be stationed. We weren't allowed to go quite yet there until half a year after we went to Hawaii, because the base was not finished yet. This was a 1938 version, but 1941 is when the Hickam Field was inaugurated, and we moved in the spring of 1941. Next slide. That is a picture of Pearl Harbor, looking from the north to the south. And the thing that I want you to notice there is that right in the middle of the bay there is Ford Island. It was an island all of itself right into the middle of the bay there. And you can see ships all over the place, moored and out in the bay, very shortly before the Japanese bombing. The next picture is a much better looking picture, and I don't have a pointer. I mean, I can't point there, so I just have to give you a narrative. Where our house was if you see on the left-hand side, halfway up the screen there, you see a road going by with the other roads at an angle. You see that? Just let me know if you're seeing what I'm telling you. Yes and no? Okay, oh, here's a red, yeah, that area there, that's where our housing was. Our house was in one of those diagonal streets on Hickam Field. And very close to that, you can see where the Pearl Harbor is, where all the battleships are. The battleships are in a line over here on the lower part of that. Amy, can you point to that? I apologize, I have no way to point to that. But that's where all the battleships were. There were 8 battleships in Pearl Harbor the day it was bombed. And so we lost quite a few battleships there due to the Japanese attack. But the interesting thing is the Japanese really wanted to destroy our 3 aircraft carriers, all of which were at sea that weekend. So at the last minute, they sailed out of Pearl Harbor, so the Japanese were not able to destroy any of the aircraft carriers, but they did destroy several of the bombers, of the battleships. Let's go to the next picture here. Yeah, that is a picture, that is a graphic showing Pearl Harbor the day before. In fact, this in the upper right corner there, it says the last instant of peace. Just before the Japanese bombers came in, that's where everything was sitting in the harbor there. And there's 8 battleships, including one down the lower left there, in port that day, but none of the aircraft carriers were, which was the prize that the Japanese missed. So this was a Saturday night. Sunday morning at 7:55 in the morning is when the bombing attack occurred. It was a pure 100% surprise on our part. We'll go to the next slide. Okay. This is the graphic that I made showing the size of the Japanese fleet that sailed all the way from Japan without being detected, several thousand miles across the ocean, Pacific Ocean, to attack Pearl Harbor that morning. It was a pure, complete, total surprise on the part of our country, which is an amazing thing today when you think about how powerful our Army and Navy and Air Force are today and how up to date they are and so forth. Back in 1941, Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field were completely naked as far as protection goes. Talk about learning lessons. There was a good lesson learned there. This is a graphic showing how large the Japanese fleet was. And my graphic shows at the top right there, you've got 6 blocks there. They represent 6 aircraft carriers that sailed all the way from Japan, all the way down to the Hawaiian Islands. The second one is 2 battleships. The third one, 3 heavy cruisers, which is halfway between a light cruiser and a battleship. And then 1 light cruiser, I don't know why there was only 1 there. 11 destroyers, 28 large submarines came with the fleet, and also 5 midget submarines, manned by there were 2 persons in each of the Japanese midget. And this is pretty bad, talking about how certain races are. They took 2 sailors into each of those 5 midget submarines and welded closed the door because everybody knew, including them, it was a one-way trip. Their mission was to sneak under the radar. No, I don't want to use that term because that wasn't happening then. We had nets covering the entrance to Pearl Harbor, and their job was to get in under the nets and get inside where all the ships were moored and try to ram the ships as much as they could. And then finally, in those 6 aircraft carriers up there, they had 355 airplanes. 355 airplanes were used to attack Pearl Harbor, Hickam Field, and the other parts of the Hawaiian Islands. Amazing. So let's go to the next. We'll skip that. They use 3 kinds of airplanes. I'm just going to quickly tell you which ones they are. The top one is an airplane that would drop torpedoes. They fly real low over the water, drop the torpedoes, and then pull away. And the torpedoes would go through the water and it would strike the battleships or the other ships just under the water line, and it was a kind of a fatal blow. So they use those. The middle airplane is what they use to see a target, turn over, and dive straight toward the target. And you might be able to see there's a little tube right in front of the pilot's canopy there, and they would aim with that tube. They would drop their bomb and then pull up, fly away, and then the bomb would continue on its path and hit its target. Very effective dive bomb. The third one down below was known as a Zero. That was the airplane the name that they gave it, and that was the fighter airplane to try to counter any fighter airplanes that we were able to get off the ground to try to attack the attacking fleet. Let's go to the next one. That is a quick graphic showing the island of Oahu, with south being south, of course, in this case. And right there at the bottom is the lower right side. It says Hickam Field. That's where my family was living. And right there next to it is Pearl Harbor with all of the ships that I just finished showing you a minute ago. And this showed the path that the airplanes, attacking airplanes, coming from the north, and they flew those routes, and every airplane had its orders of where he was going to attack. And so it was a very effective thing. We did not have very much anti-aircraft to shoot back at them because it was a surprise attack. And the moment the bombs started falling, I was in my bedroom window reading a comic strip, and it was Superman to be exact, and my favorite. And Red Ryder was the second story, and I heard the whining sound, and that didn't sound right to me. And my bed was facing Pearl Harbor. And so I got up on my knees and looked up over there just in time to be able to see the airplanes coming in a dive. It was deadly quiet up until that time, in a dive, and then I actually saw some of the bombs falling before they hit. And then there was this huge explosion. And so for a few seconds there, I just watched that in rapid attention, didn't know what was going on. And about that time, my dad ran down the hallway and told my two sisters and myself, and this almost his exact words, he says, "Get out of bed, get dressed, the Japs are bombing." That's all he said to us. And then he told us to get under the bed, and the Japs are bombing. So, of course, this inquisitive kid, 12 years old, what do you think he did? You think he got under the bed? No. I peeked out the window to see what was going on. And I was in. And my parents, when they learned about that later on, they really had a fit. But in any case, that was the story there. I'm not going to go into that. One of the Japanese planes got shot down and the pilot was killed. And in the course later on, in looking through what his paperwork in his cockpit, the airplane did not burn, it just crashed and he was killed. We found out that he had a hand-drawn map of Pearl Harbor where the ships were. This is a picture that I got from the U.S. Navy later on and showed that the Japanese had actually put a miniature Pearl Harbor, that representing Battleship Row right there, and their pilots were using that to try to get orientation of what they were going to be seeing when they eventually got to Pearl Harbor. So the Japanese had carefully planned what was going to happen and actually had a model like that. Next. Yeah, that is a quick look at the various routes that the Japanese airplanes took, just to give you a quick idea that they had very specific instructions of what route they would take and which target they would go to. And you can see up there, you can see Battleship Row. I'm sorry I don't have a good pointer there. Thanks, Amy. Somebody's doing that. Yeah, down below on the other side of the island. No, up in the water, right there, right there. Those were the battleships right over there, and that was the target that they had. And you can see airplanes coming from the southeast corner, and they're all headed with they have torpedoes, and they're going to drop those into the water and let the torpedoes go ahead and hit. Go to the next slide, please. There, that is a picture that's an actual Japanese picture. There's a Battleship Row. Looking southeast at that point, and way off in the distance is white smoke there, and that is the other part, that's the backside of Hickam Field where I was, where they were bombing the bombers over there. And our house, you can see some oil tanks there. You see those white oil tanks coming down south of that they're right in those oil tanks right there were just about a block away from where our quarters were. So we were kind of right in the